Today's guest is the author of Leadership Decision, a TEDx talker, and has received a doctorate of education in leadership. Over the past 8 years in leadership development, she has impacted more than 35,000 lives. And today she's going to share with you new insights, ideas and information to survive the Great Resignation. Would you please help us welcome our good friend, Dr. Catherine Rymsha. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. My pleasure. Well, I have the pleasure to coach a lot of people and to be the teacher, but I feel like I'm going to be the student today, and I'm so excited to learn from you. Now, I'd like to talk a lot about leadership today, and I think in today's world, people are quite confused about leadership. You know, we live in a day of influencers and people wanting to be wantrepreneurs, self-employed. What's a simple definition of leadership that we could all agree on to start the conversation? So I get asked that question a lot, and there's no real perfect definition out there. But when I do think about what makes a leader and someone who decides to lead versus a follower is really someone who takes initiative. You know, they see a problem or an area that needs to be addressed or has an opportunity and really make decisions to support their actions that are going to correct it, make it better, amplify its kind of positivity. So for me, leadership really comes down to those who take action and make a difference versus those who sit back and wait for somebody else to take charge.
Mm-hmm. I say to my students, there's two qualities of successful people. Now, I'm not saying this is about leaders, but successful people tend to be goal-oriented and action-oriented. And I believe there's that component of action there. Now, if we read the Bible, in Proverbs 29:18, it says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." So I also believe that leaders hold the vision and they direct their people. So in a business, why is this leadership role so important?
Well, I think you made a great point there with it being vision. And I think a lot of times leaders think that they are leading with vision or have clear goals that other people feel bought into. When I've done some consulting with leaders at various levels, a lot of them say, well, of course my team knows my vision or what my goals are and what that means. And then you talk to their team and the team's like, nope, no clue what we're working towards or where I can be helpful in this or where I can take action. So to your point, yeah, I mean, vision is the foundation for action and figuring out where somebody can be kind of oriented and taking action with their decisions. But I think that's one mistake that leaders make so many assumptions that people know what they're working for. And a lot of people that I've been talking to lately have said, oh, well, Catherine, come on, you talk about all this vision and purpose and motivation and what this looks like and engaging people and giving them permission to act or to lead within their own right. But yeah, people just work to have a job. People work for the salary. These kind of topics as it relates to, like I said, motivation or engagement are just fluff. No one really cares about emotional intelligence, which it's surprising that even in today's day and age, I'm still getting remarks like that. But I think some of those kind of dated management practices still stay true. So I think within business, there's an element of leaders communicating their vision for themselves and what they're trying to achieve from a professional standpoint. But there's also so much more opportunity for leaders to communicate more of what their leadership purpose is. And purpose has been a topic that's come up so much more from a leadership and business angle coming out of the pandemic. But I think that those are elements that are crucial for people to feel bought in and want to stay working for a particular leader within the professional sense and feel like they're a part of something greater than themselves.
I've worked in many companies where leadership was the title on your business card. And customers would look at your business card and, okay, this person's not a leader, this person's not a leader. And then they'd start to look at your badge. Is this person a leader? And I remember working with Emirates Airline. One of the biggest risks for us going on a flight, so we'd be on a $450 million aircraft. We would have 400 customers, we'd have 17 crew, and we had to navigate this aircraft from its origin to the destination. Now, we might be departing Dubai at 4 a.m. in the morning, and we're going to navigate all the way to Los Angeles, which is going to be a 16-hour flight. And somebody has to lead. Well, the pilot can fly the aircraft, but somebody had to lead the people. And what I've learned over the years is that emotions are more contagious than COVID. And if you had a leader who didn't set the vision for the flight, who didn't set the standards, who didn't articulate the culture, then 16 hours the aircraft might be flying in one direction, but the people are going in their own directions. And it'd create a lot of conflict. And I remember one of my leaders one time had brought the crew onto the aircraft. They had positioned themselves as this leader who was going to take care of their people. And then they made an announcement. So we got 400 people coming towards the aircraft door, and the leader told us how to care for the customers. And this is the announcement that was made. Cabin crew, the enemy approaches. So that was our signal. This is how you're going to care for your customers. The enemy approaches. And I would have to say it was one of the worst flights I'd ever been on, because that was how the leader told us to lead our customers. And it was absolute hell. So what are you seeing as some of these risks to a business for poor leadership?
Oh gosh, I mean, the risks for a business for poor leadership is so long. I mean, we'd be here all night or all day, depending on where you are in the world. But I think where we're seeing more of a need for leaders, and this has been a topic that I've been speaking about a ton lately, is really making sure that leaders are connecting with their people or their talent in a deeper way. So everyone's familiar, making that assumption, with this whole concept of the Great Resignation, and people are leaving jobs in huge numbers, trying to kind of find their purpose, find a better leader, find a company that really aligns more with their values. And I think that, even from the people standpoint only, is making it more crucial for leaders to have a deeper level of emotional intelligence, to talk more about purpose, to find ways to be more vulnerable, which I know from a leadership standpoint can feel like an icky word, if you will. Like, oh, you don't associate leadership with vulnerability, or trying to connect with people on where you've made mistakes. But I think those are factors now, given today's kind of talent jumps that we see, that really help leaders within the business standpoint keep their people, like I said. And with people leaving in such high numbers and in droves like we're seeing, this is going to be critical for organizations to put more of a focus on having different talent management practices. And really, the success of those is dictated by the strength of their leaders and how willing to be true leaders their people are committed to be.
And I think that number, I was reading some statistics from the US Department of Labor. They said 4.53 million workers quit their jobs in March 2022. And in my opinion, there's two reasons why people leave. They leave because of the company, or they leave because of the leader. And if it wasn't one of those two, they'd be happy and they'd stay. And we hear a lot of this from leaders. Good people are hard to find. You can't retain talent. I also grew up in a family business, and there was a lot of limiting beliefs. There was a lot of fears. There was a lot of doubts about employment. I remember my parents would say, it's better to be self-employed. If you employ somebody, they're going to take advantage of you. They'd say, what if you hire them and train them and then they leave? And there's a lot of these fears, doubts, and limiting beliefs for these business owners. So what are some strategies that people can use to attract and keep good talent? Because I believe it's possible, because we see these companies, they attract and keep good people. How do we do it in our own businesses?
From an attraction standpoint, I think there is definitely a level, even within the whole kind of recruiting interview process, for leaders to be pretty honest in who they are and what their expectations are. Interviewing is so much like dating. You try to put on your kind of best face forward and be as attractive as you can, and really hope that things work out. But after that second or third date, the true colors start seeping
Well, I
out.
was good at dating, and my wife says to me, she's like, husband, she goes, you dated me, you promised me, but you got bad quality semen. Your children are out of control.
But I mean, we put on a great face for, like I said, dating and interviewing. And I think that's where even being honest in the interview process can give people a real, true feeling about whether they want to work for you or not. And I think that's the first mistake people make, is that they try to put
Mm.
on that kind of, best impression, which obviously we don't want to walk into an interview and be a total jerk, but you have to be honest and true about who you are as a person and how you're going to lead people. Because if you say you're going to be very collaborative and then you end up being a micromanager, that's a huge disconnect and huge red flag for self-awareness. But I think even once you get that person in the door and it's a few months into it or even a few years into it, depending on the people in your team, is, this practice called a stay interview. And that's been one thing I've been doing a lot of speaking and coaching on lately. So basically, the stay interview was really a discussion that a leader would have with people on their team to ask them, what do you like about working here? Tell me about a great day at work, and really listening to what these people have to say to hear what's going to make them tick. It's not always about money, about why someone's going to pick up a call from a recruiter. I mean, there's so much more to that. If you work for a leader who really cares about you, money isn't going to be the only thing that drives you to leave. It's when you work for a poor leader or someone who doesn't have your best interests in mind, that's going to make the dollar, or wherever you are, the euro, so much more tempting to
Mm.
walk out the door. And having just a simple conversation, maybe twice a year, to say, what's that great day at work? What do you like most about your job? Or even, what's driving you crazy, and where are there roadblocks that I can remove that would make you more successful and less inclined to leave? And I think that's such a powerful discussion to have. And yet it's something that some leaders feel fearful to even embark on, because they just think that they're going to hear criticism and issue time and time again. But a lot of times you have these conversations and you can really understand, where you might need to realign your vision to what the team is kind of able to do and what their expectations are. And that can really help to really put you in a position of being a leader and really caring, but then also really showing your team too that you have their best intentions and interest in mind, like I said. So
Mm.
really powerful tool.
Yeah, it sounds like those stay interviews, the leader also has to demonstrate emotional intelligence, because, in my opinion, a lot of leaders don't have an accurate self assessment. And when they get feedback from their team members, it really rocks their core beliefs. So why wouldn't they do it? I don't want to hear their reality. I want to live in my little box. I don't want to hear their reality, and it could disrupt what I'm doing. However, we need feedback to move forward. We can't grow without that feedback. And one of the beliefs that we share with our students is there's no failure, there's only feedback. But I think what's been conditioned into us for so many years, that feedback leads to major criticism. And I learned that when I was a leader at Emirates Airline. I would say to my cabin crew, I'd say, the first thing I'm going to do on this flight is I'm going to catch you doing something right. And they'd go, you're going to catch me doing something right? I'd say, absolutely. I'm going to walk around this aircraft and I'm going to find you doing things right. And they looked at me as if I was from outer space, because all of their other leaders walked around the aircraft and found them doing things wrong. So I said, I'm going to catch you doing things right. And they loved that. And then I'd go and compliment them. You're doing this right. You're doing that right. And then I said to them, I'm also going to walk around the aircraft and I'm going to see you doing things wrong or falling below the standard. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you're tired, that you're fatigued, that you're overworked, and you've simply forgotten and you've got aircraft brain. And they look at you as if you're from outer space, like, you're going to let me off the hook? And I'd say, absolutely, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt that it's just slipped your mind. And what happened was, if I was able to give them open and honest feedback, they would come to me with all of their problems and challenges. And even if I had a shortfall, instead of writing to my manager, they'd come to me directly and say, hey, boss, there was a shortfall over here. And it gave me that opportunity. But I had to be open to that feedback. And I had to realise that just because I was a leader, I wasn't perfect. And I think a lot of leaders feel that they have to be perfect, and it makes that vulnerability hard for them. Hey, what if they catch me doing something wrong? That's a tough one for a leader. So who is responsible for bad hires in a business? Who's responsible for the bad hires?
Oh gosh, I hate to think of anybody ever being a bad hire. I think it's a lot sometimes of misunderstandings, which is where I think having an open and honest conversation, even in that initial interview process of, this is who I am as a leader. One thing that I've worked with one group on is writing your leadership philosophy and really getting pretty clear in terms of the good and the bad about you as a leader. and being able to share that openly with people. So there's no surprises, because like I said, I think that's where things tend to fall down, is when people try to pretend or be not authentic, or kind of say one thing and do another. But yet, if we are, to your points, being open and honest in our feedback and who we are, and being candid, and saying this is, really a two-way exchange, then this is where the bad hires can not so much happen, but really get into more of a productive conversation about where things may be going wrong and how they can be rectified.
Now, you wrote a book recently called The Leadership Decision and Decide to Lead Today. If we were reading this book, what are some of those key learnings we'd be taking away about leadership?
Yeah, so the main premise of the book is just that leadership is a decision. So many times people say, well, in order to be a leader, Catherine, I have to get promoted and have an official title. And leadership is only something that I do at work. And, some of which is, like I said earlier, a bit dated, but I think there's an opportunity for people, regardless of where they are in their lives, to make decisions to position themselves as a leader. And that's not granted to us. That's something that we take for ourselves. So that's really the key thing of the book, to get people really thinking differently, but then also to give them some kind of tools that are pretty practical, of saying, this is how you can gain awareness to become a better leader. This is how you're going to practice, and this is how you should be evaluating yourself so you can make better decisions as you move forward with your leadership journey.
I like that decision. I like that. I like to hear that. My wife talks about the 4 Ds. She says you've got to have desire to lead. You've got to have the desire. You have to have that burning desire that you want to be a leader. She said, and then you've got to make a decision. You've got to burn the mental bridges, and you can't walk backwards. You've got to keep moving forward. She said you've got to also have determination to see things through the end, and you've also got to have that discipline. And you've got to have the discipline of the leader to set the vision, to get clear on the mission, and to tell people how they fit into the overall structure and their purpose. Because, as we said before, where there is no vision, the people perish. And it's the leader who has to set and hold that vision.
Definitely is.
For us to get a copy of your book, where's the best place for us to get a copy of your book?
So up on Amazon. I'm on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I also came out with I tried my hand at writing fiction, so a murder mystery. So it's kind of odd that I'm in this leadership development bucket, murder mystery bucket, but it's an interesting mix. So they're up on Amazon, so you can check them out there.
I love it. Well, there's many authors around the world who have done the same. There's a very famous one many years ago by the name of L. Ron Hubbard, and he was the founder of Scientology, and he wrote dozens and dozens of books under pseudonyms. Also, Dr. Richard Bandler, who was one of the co-founders of NLP, he wrote books on NLP, but he also had pseudonym and wrote children's books. Yeah. So good. All these marvellous talents. So thank you so much for sharing these ideas with us today. And if someone was considering becoming a leader, what are some final words of encouragement you could share with them to take that next step forward to become a leader today?
I would say think about a decision that you can make that's going to help position you in a light that you view as a leadership light. And I think the first step that you can do to figure out what the decision might be is to define what leadership is for yourself. And then you can start making decisions using that framework to figure out where you go next.
Wonderful advice. Ladies and gentlemen, just make that decision today and step forward in times of rapid change and become a leader based on your situation. So go to the website now. You can go to Amazon. You can find the book, The Leadership Decision by Dr. Catherine Rymsha. Get a copy today. And I'd like to say, Catherine, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for sharing all of your knowledge and your wisdom with us. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, one new idea at the right time is enough to make you rich. So take one idea from today's live stream, apply it until you get the result. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day. Catherine, thank you so much.